those launch locks. And then the second task that they can do once that arm is deployed is to release the launch locks on the other window shutter that we did not complete on EVA1. The last task on this EVA is to install the camera group that was removed on EVA2 and get it all checked out. I think we're ready for the video for EVA3, please. Well, this is going to be a very robotic-intensive EVA. Ron Guerin will be on the station arm for a good chunk of the EVA for the NTA R&R. Because of the distance between the S1 NTA and the spare on ESP3, the crew will have to install what is called a whiff extender along with their foot restraint, and that basically, in effect, is just increasing the reach of the arm so that we can span the gap between these two locations. So the crew will set up the arm with that whiff extender and foot restraint, and EV2 will then ingress the APFR and begin to prep the NTA for removal. So Ron will release the 4 bolts that we reset on EVA2 and then install a handling aid to help him during the translation. And then he will, along with the help of the robotic arm operator, pull the NTA out of S1. While he has been completing all that, Mike Fossum has been working his way down to ESP3 on the port side of the vehicle, where he has gotten into the APFR, pulled back the MLI tent, and then he has released the bolts that are holding the NTA in place. He will then pull the NTA out, flip it over, and temp stow it on the opposite side of the ESP3 to get it out of the way so that when Ron gets here with the empty tank, he can install it directly into the housing on ESP3. So we'll see all that here in animation. All right. EV1, Mike Fossum has now moved to the front side or forward face of the ESP3 in order to help guide the NTA into its position. You can see now as we move around that temp stow location for the spare NTA. And now the coordination between Mike Fossum, Ron Guerin, and our station arm operator will continue as they install this empty NTA now into the MLI tent. Ron Guerin will drive 1 bolt to make sure that the NTA is secured, and then he will remove his handling aid, move it over to the spare NTA. Then he will retrieve that spare NTA and begin moving that back to S1. Mike Fossum will stay behind and clean up the work site, making sure the bolts get all torqued down on the empty NTA. And Ron will get a nice ride on the station arm back to S1. He'll remove his handling aid and secure all of the 4 bolts. And then he's got 3 electrical connectors to go remate to power that nitrogen tank assembly. And then he'll remove all the hardware from the station arm so that it is unencumbered to go about the rest of its tasks. Mike Fossum is going to take the foot restraint that he installed on EVA2 back from ESP3 and translate it back down to the lab. We need to remove this APFR so that the ESP3 can be relocated during the stage. After he's complete with that, he will move his way out to the JPM, where he will begin the task that we outlined earlier. His first task is in reference to the 2 cameras on the robotic arm on the GEM. The first one is the WVE, or wrist vision equipment. He'll remove the launch lock and MLI cover, or thermal cover, and stow that in a bag. Then he'll move to the EVE, or elbow vision equipment. It has a similar launch lock and thermal cover that he will remove. The last item here on the end cone is to remove the 3 launch lock bolts from the aft window shutter. And now both of these window shutters can be opened and closed by the crew inside the vehicle as they desire. Mike will then work his way to both sides of the JLP, actually, to deploy these deployable MMOD shields shown here. There's actually a separate handle to deploy each. I believe we have a short animation of the flight hardware for one of these being deployed. This is the handle that Mike will access in order to deploy the shield. He'll rotate this handle out, and then it slides along a track down in this picture. And as he slides that down, this MMOD shield actually deploys. And again, that is protecting the mating surface between the JLP and the JPM from any orbital debris. Last thing to do is to close or stow the handle in its locked position and then close up the door. So while Mike is working on all of that, Ron will be translating back up to the backside of the starboard truss here to connect the nitrogen tank to the ammonia tank. Once again, he's going to open the shower curtain, and then he will disconnect the nitrogen lines from their temp stow location on the NTA, or the nitrogen tank, and then route them over to the ammonia tank. After he's complete with that, he'll close up the shower curtain. He's then going to work his way down to the station airlock, where he will pick up the external television camera group, which was left in the airlock for thermal reasons. He'll pick that up and translate it out to the port side of the truss, again to the far outboard side of P1 on the nadir side, and meet up with Mike Fossum to install this camera.